Hi there, my name is Paolo Salmi, aka Pint Adventurer. I'm 11 year old. I'm 11 years old, and welcome to my show called Adventurous, where I get to interview super cool people from around the world about their life journey. I'm the youngest ever ambassador for Water to Go. I also work in partnership with Luster Products and Virgin Money Lounge. I'm also the founder of Adventurous Publishing House, where I publish books for adventurers who desire to share their adventures with the world. I have a signature program called Pint Adventure, the Abundant Adventure Creator. I'm an award-winning author of a book series called Pint Size Adventure, and I'm an award-winning public speaker. I've spoken at events such as Mercedes-Benz World and Virgin Money Lounge, etc. I'm super stoked and excited about interviewing this awesome adventurer and this amazing guy called Alex Impey, who is an amazing guy, and I'm really excited about interviewing him. So thank you, Alex, for coming on today. And hi there, adventurer Alex. Thank you so much for coming on
Hello,
today.
adventurer Paolo. I think what I need to bring you with me at all times, because you're like the best inspiration giver I've ever had. So
Thank you.
Much appreciated for that.
Thank you for coming on today. So welcome to my show, and thank you for letting me interview you. I'm really looking forward to interviewing you, and I believe that in life there are two types of adventures that we can go on. One, an external venture out in the world, discovering our beautiful world, and two, an internal adventure of self-discovery. And just once again, thank you so much for coming on today and letting me interview you on my show.
Perfect.
So let's get started with these questions. Are you ready?
Go for it. I'm always ready.
Great. So first of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself and just tell the audience and the listeners and the viewers and watchers what you're all about and who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, very good. So I think I can't match your introduction, I've got to be honest, Paolo, but I'll have a go. So as you've mentioned, my name's Alex Impey. I'm 35 this year, so I am no longer a young man. I am now just a man, which is quite a sad state of affairs. But I've been on quite an interesting journey. I'm sure you're going to quiz me on that. But my journey started a long time ago on the journey of becoming an engineer, a mechanical engineer. And so I studied at Newcastle University, and then I graduated with a Master's in Mechanical Engineering, at which point I moved over to Holland to take up some job, and I took up a job as mechanical engineering over there. I learnt Dutch, me on an adventure around the world, working for a company called Shell, and that took me on an adventure into the North Sea on oil and gas platforms, on designing big oil infrastructures. Lived up in Scotland. I've travelled through South America. I lived in Dubai. I even worked in and lived in Iraq as well, of all places. And that took me on some really interesting and exciting adventures. And then a couple of years ago, I decided that it was a new chapter for my life, and I started a business called CUSA. And CUSA is a very niche property development company that specialises in bespoke end-to-end living for 18 to 38-year-olds right now. And we look at providing a fantastic living experience. And our whole mantra, our MTP, which is massive transformative purpose, is to make quality living both affordable and enjoyable for everyone. And so I've been on that mission for the last few years, and that's what's really driving me. But my bigger overall mission in life, which is like bigger than me and bigger, a lot longer than my lifetime, is to create a new level of social human interaction. And we're going to do that through collaboration, and collaboration on a global scale. And we do that through focusing on development of STEM applications, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, because I believe that is where the future of humanity is. And if we're going to help humanity survive so that you and your future children and grandchildren are going to have a fantastic life, and that's where it's going to be. And collaboration on a big grand scale is my vision for the rest of humankind. That's hopefully me in a short nutshell, as we say. over to you again, buddy.
First, you said that my description won't match yours, but I think your description doesn't match mine. Because in the description down below, I'm going to be putting down your bio there about what you do. You told me it was going to be short. You've done so many things. That's absolutely amazing.
I've condensed it down for you.
And I love the property company that you set up. That's really, really inspirational. My brother and my sister actually wrote a book on property, so that's really great. It's really cool to hear that someone else is in the property industry. So my next question is, what is your why, and why do you do what you do?
So my whys. I think I explained that before. I'm a big believer of a why, and I think everybody should have it. But I believe that there's 4 things that go with a why. You need your vision, which is your why. You need to know what your values are as a person, which is what drive you and what help you guide you through life and your decision makings. You need to know what your success criteria are, and you need to be an authentic you, so be happy with the person you are. All those 4 together then create this massive mission. But if I just look at the why for a second, like I mentioned before, I want to change the way we interact as humans, this human social interaction. And I feel that right now we're quite a disjointed world, and you look all over the place, how we try to work, how we interact, how things have happened with COVID. When we don't collaborate, but imagine all the problems, the big problems that we have in the world. Look at the UN 17 global goals, which is meant to help provide mankind a good platform to survive. All these big issues, global warming, food, famine, power problems, they're all potentially be able to be solved through collaboration on a great scale. And combine that collaboration with STEM applications and technology, we can create this fantastic solution. And that's really where I'm about, and that's what I want to do. I've got an engineering background. I love engineering, and I tried to bring that into everything I do. And the first step on that journey was in property. And hence I created the property company, because I wanted a vehicle where I could create that change. And with CUSA, we are very much trying to change the face of property development in the UK and hopefully the world. And we bring in social and private housing together. And it's a really interesting concept, because we have a workplace, we have a place to live, we've got a place to chill out, have a beer, have a juice, then you've got a place where you can, for your health, which is the gym. You combine those together and you get some really cool social interaction. And we use technology to enable that. And so this is the first step in this bigger picture, and that's what drives me on a morning.
That's absolutely amazing. I don't think I've told you, but I would love to be an engineer when I grow up.
Good.
Yeah, so I'd like to go into mechanical engineering, because it's a big passion of mine. And just from when I was little, my mum would buy me, let's say, £100 car, like a toy car, and the next minute you see all of the pieces of that car on the table, and I unscrewed all the different pieces, put it onto the table, and I wanted to see how it actually works. And what my mum thought was that I used to just take it apart and just leave it there. No, I would take it apart, look at the different components, search what they are, and then I'd put it back together, and it would work even better than the version that it actually was when I got it. So I've always loved engineering from a very, very young age, and love building things and putting things back together.
So should we do a very brief test? I'm going to see if you could actually qualify as an engineer right now. I've used this test hundreds of times on every other person who wants to be an engineer. So I'm going to give you a quick test. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
When you've used Lego before?
Yes.
Correct? In Meccano. When you get Lego Meccano or anything that you've got to assemble, do you use the instructions?
No.
Then you're going to be an engineer. Perfect. That's the one question I always ask. And everyone who answers, I don't look at the instructions, I just get on with it. You were born to be an engineer. So I have no doubt you'll be an excellent one.
Thank you. Yeah, because just from a young age, my mum would buy me like a Lego set, and like you said, a Lego Technic and Lego Meccano set. And my mum would see the the instructions either in the bin or on the table, and me not looking at them. So I've never really liked using instructions, because I just like to build things freely and just from my imagination. And like you said, that I think that, and that's what makes a really true engineer, or someone who thinks not only just looks at what's there, but thinks of things in their imagination and builds things from scratch. So that's a really good test. Thank you.
Oh, no, but I think like one thing I always learned as an engineer, because as an engineer you've got to build around design codes and laws and all these kind of things, but it's working in this grey area. That's when you become a really good engineer, when people give you a problem and you don't have instructions. You've got to use your brain to come up with a solution that will work.
Yes.
And you know, I can see everything you're doing around you, and I think you make a fantastic mechanical engineer, and I would welcome you to the club. You know, and hopefully one day, you know, I'm a chartered mechanical engineer. I was recently made as a fellow, which is the highest piece you can get in the UK as an engineer. And you know, it's exactly the people like you that we need to bring into the industry to keep it going and to prosper. So if I can help you on that journey through the IMechE, then let me know. I'll always help.
Wow, thank you so much. So my next question is, what is the best, like out of all your adventures, what is the best adventure that you've been on?
Oh, best adventure. Right. I've got to remind myself who the audience is. So there will be no rude adventures, I promise. I think one of the most interesting adventures, and I've done a lot, was probably before I left corporate life to go full time with CUSA, my property development business. I told you I worked as an engineer in Shell. And the last location that I worked in was in Iraq. Now, I'm sure that you're probably aware, and all of your listeners, Iraq is in the Middle East. It's probably voted the second worst place to live and work in the world. One of the most corrupt nations in the world. It's went through 3 wars in the last 30 years. There's a lot of civil unrest. That, you know, it doesn't have basic living conditions. There's no power, homes. It reaches 55 degrees during the summer, and it can reach below freezing in the winter. It's a very harsh and challenging environment to work in. And I spent over 1.5 years of my life working on projects in there. And the project I worked out on there was it was a huge facility. And the remit for the company who I worked for at the time was a company called Basra Gas Company. And they were a mixture of the Iraqi government and Shell. And the mandate was to cut out all of the flaring. Now, just as a quick engineering lesson, when you make oil and gas, when it comes out the ground, you get oil and you also get gas. A lot of people don't want the gas because it's not profitable and it's harder to refine and make money out of. So instead of collecting it, what they do is just burn it. So like set it on fire and send it up into the atmosphere. That obviously has big carbon issues, not good for the environment. And so we were challenged to put out all of this flaring across Iraq. And it was the biggest carbon, well, not capture, but the biggest carbon reduction project the world has ever seen. And this was a project that I was working on.
That's
and
amazing.
the project which I was working on was a place called which is right on the coast of Iraq. And I was the lead mechanical engineer, and I was responsible for getting an old facility, which was built in 1970s. It had been bombed loads of times by the Americans and the British and everybody else. It was my job to get that back up and working again so that we could produce gas, give the gas back to the Iraqi nation so they could survive, and also export so they could grow the country. It was a really interesting project where you were working very closely with my local Iraqi counterparts. I was teaching them about engineering, teaching them about standards, raising the education, and then also providing back on not only an international but a global scale, helping contribute against the global warming and carbon effects. So it was a really, really interesting adventure. 1.5 years well spent of my life, and we're meeting some really fantastic people in some very challenging locations.
Wow, that just shows a lot just about you, how resilient you are. Like even in hard times, you still got to pay it forward and push through. and make it to the end. Like even if there's a big, like as when the snowball falls down a cliff, it gets bigger and bigger, and sometimes it lands on you. But even if that's landing on you, you're the type of guy to just get out of that and walk out, brush it off your shoulder, and act like
Hopefully,
it's nothing.
if the snowball's not too big, I'll always try and brush it off. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And my next question is, who inspires you and why?
Who inspires me and why? I think it's a good question. This, I mean, I think I told you about my big why, which is, changing human social interaction, collaboration, and I'm trying to get there in a couple of steps. The first one is kind of revolution of property and the way we interact as humans through commercial. Another part is also space travel, and so my ambition within the next 5 to 10 years will be to open my own space development company. And so this is a little bit different to what Elon Musk is doing and what Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. They're a little bit about, tourism, and another one about colonization, where I want to do discovery and development, because I think, that development side is going to help us as a human race. So I would probably say that those guys are real big inspirations for me. Elon Musk is a really fantastic guy. Richard Branson as well. Not so much because of what they're doing in the space industry, but how they operate as entrepreneurs. And, how they, through the face of adversity, see what's happened to Richard Branson through his life. If you read his autobiography, which is really good, Paolo, I recommend it. He tells you about all the times he nearly died, or when someone's told him, no, this is a really stupid business venture. Same with Elon Musk, how you look at Tesla stock, how it dived, and now it's like worth 40 billion, in the space of a year and a half, how things have tripled in stock size. These are guys who really are forethinkers and front runners in their industry, and provides a lot of inspiration. I definitely think those guys are. And I think also, it sounds very, very cheesy, but my mum is a big inspiration to me. And the reason being is my mum raised me as a single parent. And so I didn't have my dad around, and she didn't, she was no income, low income. And so she really had a hard time. And I didn't appreciate the environment she gave me, how she looked after me as a child, helped me engage with me to get into engineering, and help me develop the person I am now. It's only when I look back and I can see what she's done that I can really appreciate that. So I think those kind of people are a big inspiration to me.
They're all my inspirations, including Elon Musk and Richard Branson. And when you said it's cheesy, it's absolutely not cheesy to say that your mum is your inspiration. My mum is my inspiration as well. Respective of dads, but in this case, mums are the best. My mum is she's always mum's always there for you. That's what they're here for. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
She's a lucky mum.
Yeah. I really got lucky. I'm really lucky, and so is my mum. So my next question is, what is your why, and why do you do what you do?
Okay, so I think I explained what my why was before. Why do I do what I want to do? Is because I've got a lot of belief that in humankind, and I think I said, like, my why is quite a big one. With global collaboration, bringing STEM development to kind of keep us, not just to survive, but take us to the next level of human evolution. And I want to do that because I don't want my children, and I don't want your children, I don't want my friends' children and the future of their lives to go on as it is now. We see all of the problems that plague us, disease, look what's happened with COVID-19, the pandemic, where we are with the bigger social problems, with still tensions, war. All of these things shouldn't be going on in our day and age with the level of technology around us. And so if I can help in some way to alleviate that and make the world a slightly better place, then that's my moral obligation as a human. We're only here a short time. And so I feel that in that small time, we've got to do what we've got to do to help everybody else. And that kind of fits in with my why. Well, hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you. So my next question is, what are the top 3 lessons that you've learned in your life that are the difference, that makes the difference?
That makes the difference. Okay. good three questions, right? So I think the first point would be to the lesson is to always surround yourself with the best. And what I mean by that is not just the best, like the TV or your computer or anything along those lines. Or if you can, always do it. But what I mean by that is about the people around you. And if you have the best people around you who look after your interests, then you will always succeed. And you see this now, Paolo. I know the work you're doing as well with Pete and such. I think it's important that you surround yourself with good mentors, good people who can help you train, but also good friends who give good advice. People who love you and like you for what you are and what you are doing, not because they've got an interest in how you will help them. So I think that's a really important thing. You know, have that right team around you. I think another one is to listen more. And I think we're all probably guilty of not listening. And, you know, people say they're a good listener, but are they really good listeners? And when you listen to someone and you don't react, you just listen, you then get a lot more out of the conversation. And that can really open up some hidden gems. You know, everyone doesn't like that false person who's there to talk, and then all of a sudden it's their agenda and blah, 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 blah. You know, good friends are there to listen. That's what you should always do. And I found that a lot of opportunities in life have come from being able just to listen to the people and, you know, and do nothing other than that, rather than trying to be jumping on top of advice.
I agree.
And the third one is persistence. And persistence isn't, you know, I'm quite a persistent person, but it wasn't really until the last 3 years where I learned a little bit more about persistence. And when someone tells you no, don't always take that as a no. Just find that as something that you may need to navigate around. And, you know, I think if you look at Napoleon Hill, who was the author of, what was it, Think and Grow Rich, which is a really good book. He talks about that you need to have a conviction in mind and then the persistence to carry out that conviction. So
I love all of his books. Outwin the Devil, Think and Grow Rich,
Correct.
Yeah.
It's really good, and you know, this almost 100 years old now. It's still very applicable, and you know, follow that persistence. Once you've got something in your mind, back that 100% and be persistent in getting it. And I found that, you know, if someone says no to you at that first hurdle, don't just give up. You know, I'm looking at a property now. It took 2 years to acquire, 2 years, and I was told no hundreds of times by different people, and hopefully we're close now to securing it. And you know, if I give up on the first hurdle, then we wouldn't be where we are now. So hopefully that's 3 good lessons.
Not hopefully, they are. Thank you very much for sharing your life experience and what you've learned, and the 3 most things that have made the difference in your life. So my next question is, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced in your life?
What is the biggest challenge I have faced in my life? I want to think about this because I want to give a good answer. I think one of the biggest challenges I faced in my life was leaving corporate or a career as an engineer. So obviously I worked for Shell and I've worked for all different companies supporting on the engineering side. And I did that since I left university. So essentially I only had one job after university. I had lots of little jobs before and stuff like that. But I spent 12 years working as an engineer, worked through the company. And so leaving the company to then work on my own, for my own business, where I wasn't guaranteed a paycheck, I wasn't guaranteed a bonus, I didn't have a pension, or someone wasn't paying my pension directly, should I say, it's a slightly different thing. It was a big decision for me to leave that, because as you can imagine, remember as kids, we love this nice safety blanket, mum's a safety blanket, or you've got a little blankie, wherever it is, keeps us nice and wrapped, keeps us insular from the outside, the bad outside world. And Shell were very good at that. They paid you very well, they sent you across the world. So then to make the decision to leave that was very, very hard. Because one, I was leaving the engineering side, which is, you know, it's my life, it has been my life, it still plays a big part. So to leave that behind was tough. To then say that my financial destiny is relying on me now was the right thing to do, but it's scary when you have 12 years behind you. And you then have to change your mindset about how you approach things. And you're not so much reactive, but you're more proactive. And I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges I've had to face. There's plenty more, but I think that was the most relevant one to today that we can speak.
That's absolutely amazing. I think that's a really big problem nowadays, that not so much a problem, but something that's really hard to do is to let go of something that you've loved and savored your life for almost maybe half of your life, or maybe like a long period of your life. It's really hard to let go. But it really depends on is that you? Is that who you are? Is that what you want to be? And for you, it is what you wanted to be, and it is what you wanted to do. So that must have been really, really hard to let go of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, yourself, you said you want to be an engineer. I decided to be an engineer about this a little bit earlier, but roughly the same age. And then everything I did was about how to become an engineer and the best engineer. And so when you go on that, to then say, right, I've spent 24 years becoming an engineer, to then say, right, I'm going to do something different. You're right. It's a hard choice to make, but I know that eventually my passion is always in engineering, and it will move back into that. And I use it a lot now anyway. I never will really leave it behind.
Thank you. So my next question is, it's really a suggestion. Would you, like your suggestion on this question, would you agree that children my age should spend more time outdoors? If so, why?
Do I think? I think life is about a balance, Paolo. And we've got to remember, I've got a lot of friends with parents. I'm not a parent myself. Always complaining, oh, kids are upstairs playing computer games again, or they're on the internet, and blah, 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 blah. When it was my day, I used to go out kicking a football. I used to be riding a bike. And, there is the exercise piece. Exercise is a really big balance. Everyone needs it in life. Doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or you're 55 years old. Everyone needs to have exercise. And so I think there needs to be a balance there. But on top, people have got to understand that children from 10, not even 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, completely different to children today because of what they're exposed to in technology. And so the lifestyle of a child now is completely different. So it's like apples and pears, or apples and oranges. Can't compare them. There's nothing there to compare. So we've got to be a bit more progressive with our mindset. That said, I'm always a big believer, and it's not just me. There's a lot of scientific data that backs up the fact that getting vitamin K, vitamin D, all of those essential vitamins come from outside exposure. And I think there's also a lot to be said with human contact. Human contact is really important in creating bonds, but also it releases endorphins. It releases the positive hormones in your body when you interact with someone. You touch someone on the hand, or you shake the hand, it releases chemicals which make you feel better.
Yeah.
And actually create a bond. And that's important as a development as well as a child and in an adult. So I think everything's in balance. Kids definitely should be getting out, but comparing it to maybe 5, 10, 20 years ago is not the right thing to do.
I agree. And I love what you said about the first word that you said was balance, because I feel that we don't have any balance nowadays. And so I love when you said balance, is that when I talk about the Pint's Adventure, my book's about getting kids off their iPads and into the wild. I'm not saying, we're not saying literally, eliminate the iPad, get off the iPad all day. You're not allowed to talk to your friends via social media or use the internet. We're not saying that. We're saying try and reduce that and try and have balance. Exactly what you said. So yeah, definitely, really, really agree with that.
Good man. How's your balance? How's the balance on your side, Paolo?
Thank you. So my next question is, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Okay, so I wrote, Mark Stokes, I saw you speak at the Mercedes-Benz World a year or two back. It was very good, so I'm very impressed. And so Mark actually asked me to write a chapter in his book, which your mum wrote in as well, called Advice to Your Younger Self. And in that advice, I talk about a principle called the humble square. And guess what? It's about an engineering topic. And a square, although not the strongest form known to man in terms of the shape, is still a very important function in everything that we do in engineering and how we geometrically design things. And in a square, you've got the 4 elements, and you've got 4 corner points. And I mentioned this before. To make a strong structure, to be really rigid, you need 4 elements, You need 4 right angles, 90-degree right angles. First one is your why. Second one is your values. Third is your life key result success areas. So that's what defines success for you, not what is success for everybody else. There's a big difference. So your life key success result areas, and then your authentic self. You put all those 4 in the right balance or the right counterbalance, then you get full contentment in life. And I'm a really big believer of this. And I'm writing a book about personal development book that's based around these principles of the humble square. And it's this principle I wish I could have told myself all those years ago, which was, look, don't be trying to achieve what others want you to achieve. Everyone says, oh, you need to be a success in life, and I want this. If I get a car and I get a wife and I have 2 children, I'm a successful person. Well, that might be successful for you, Paolo, but that might not be success for your brother. Your brother might just, his version of success is kicking a football around, seeing his mates, having a couple of cokes. That might be his version of success, not yours. So you need to define what is success for you. If I knew that all those years ago, I probably wouldn't have made a lot more stupid mistakes, or I would have been a lot more content with myself. And then, having that why and having my values would have meant that I would have been able to make decisions a lot easier. I wouldn't have made so many silly ones, although that is also part of life. But I think I would have had a lot more contentment in life. And so that would be the advice I give to myself.
That's absolutely amazing advice. And I think just from this interview, I think that anyone who's watching this, just feel free to ask these questions, not to anyone else, but ask them to yourself. Look into the mirror and ask yourself, like I've asked Alex, what advice would I give to my younger self? And I think that's an absolutely amazing answer. Yeah, just to, wow. I don't want to add anything because that was perfect.
Good.
Thank you. So my next question is, what was your first adventure and where did you go?
Oh, my first adventure. I'm trying to think. Where did I go? My first. What do you classify as an adventure?
Just anything, maybe a journey of self-discovery, discovering a new book, discovering probably football, maybe it's tennis.
Okay, so I think I'll give you my first foray into entrepreneurship. And it came when I was about 4 years old, and when I was 4, I was mad into dinosaurs. I literally had dinosaurs everywhere, and so I was trying to think of ways I could make money to fund my dinosaur collection. And so my funding campaign at the time was creating books. So I'd write books about dinosaurs, and I'd sell them to my family at quite extortionate prices. So I'm talking 30 years ago now, and I was selling these books at £2 or £3 a pop, which for some reason they're obviously really good books because I kept going like hotcakes. So I kept selling these books, and I realised that I'd got just enough money to buy this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was like always my big goal. I didn't quite have enough money, and so I came up with the idea that I would have a jumble sale. So I took all my other toys, which weren't dinosaurs, and I took them outside and I lined them up. My mum didn't know at the time. And I lined them up outside, and I was trying to sell my toys to random people in the street and passers by in order to make this extra cash in order to buy my giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I didn't look at it at the time, but my mum was telling me this story a few years back, and then it clicked in. It was like, oh, I've obviously had the entrepreneur spirit since I was a young child, so I was destined to be always in the entrepreneur side. But yeah, I guess that would be my first adventure of personal development and wealth discovery, shall we say.
Regardless of, just speaking from all of the other interviews and all the different people that I've interviewed, by far, that is the best adventure I've ever heard.
Little bit unorthodox.
Entrepreneurial adventure I've ever heard.
Yeah,
You were selling dinosaurs for
on the
$2.
street. Dinosaur books, and then I was trying to sell all my toys to fund my dinosaur obsession.
That's crazy. Wow. So my next my question is, has this interview shifted your perspective? If so, what will you do differently going forward?
Has this interview shifted my perspective on what, would you say, Paolo?
Just anything, whether it has to do with an entrepreneurial mindset, whatever you think it has shifted your perspective.
Yeah, I think it's I think obviously to keep an open mind, is, you know, we talked quite a few times, and this is the first time that I've been interviewed by an 11-year-old child. And sometimes, you know, as humans, as in worst case adults, make preconceptions, and you think, okay, well, I'm in an interview with an 11-year-old child, what is this going to be about, and will this add value? And I think the perspective was that I've really enjoyed this, and to see how mature that you are and how you bring very professional air to these interviews is very refreshing, and it shows you that you should never make preconceptions. And my preconceptions weren't negative, but, you know, you've blown me away by how professional and how exciting, you know, and I've really enjoyed being on here. And I think that's a takeaway that I'll take away, that is never judge a book on the first, or never judge a book by its cover, and always to have an open mind and be positive about things. And I've really enjoyed how you've interviewed me, and really credit to yourself there, Paolo.
Thank you. You've really changed my mind and my perspective, not on just engineering, but on personal development, how you think about others around you, and also it's also changed my perspective of how you perceive the world and how you should perceive the world. So just thank you very much. So next I'd like you to just let all the viewers, listeners and watchers know how they can connect with you on social media, etc., and how they can just contact you and just you know, if they would like to invest in, if you have any courses or any services that they'd like to invest in, how can they reach you and contact you?
Yeah, no worries. So everyone can contact me on my email address. I'm sure you'll post it with the notes. That's alex.impey@usa.co.uk, and usa spelled xusa.co.uk. So you can feel free to contact me by that. You can always get me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you just search for my name or search for USA, and you'll find me. You know, send me a friend request, send me a contact request on there. They've also got my website, which is alex.impey or aleximpey.com, and that's for me. But if you want to learn more about our investment business, just go to usa.co.uk. That's xusa.co.uk. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. You know, if you're looking on, if you really like the personal development side, I've just started working on the mentorship programs with a select few people, and also working in general. Like I said, I'm trying to put a book together now on the personal development side. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't get that, or Alex, his website, his email address, and everything else, I put in the description down below. So just click the link, and you'll be able to check out his services, and also like he said, perfectly said, watch this space. So just thank you so much for letting me interview you. And just before you go, I'd like you to share a departing message with the audience, maybe whether it's a quote or a like a word of inspiration, anything that you'd like to share with the audience.
Okay, so, you know, I'm an engineer. You know, I love maths and everything to do with STEM. And one of like the icons of this generation or past generation was Albert Einstein, and you know how important he's been in physics and the advancement of physics. And I'm going to paraphrase the quote because I can't remember exactly what he says. Basically, he says that the level of thinking needed to create a problem isn't the same level of thinking you need to solve it. So what he's saying is that there's got to be a mindset change between whatever that problem is and how you create a solution from it. You can't attack it with the same mind as creating the problem as you are for the solution. And it's so true that you've got to really today, in today's age where we've got so much going on around us, you've got to really step back, put yourself in a different mind position to attack the solutions which this world throws at you as yourself, but also the bigger issues. I think it's a really good piece of advice that he gave, and I hope to share that with everyone, and inspires you to do what you need to do yourselves.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. And just once again, thank you so much for letting me interview you, Alex. I've had a really wonderful time just sharing your words of wisdom, and also you've inspired me a lot. You've taught me so much around engineering and how to become an engineer, and you've inspired me a lot on the personal development world and how to just be yourself, and also how you said don't judge a book by its cover. I think that's absolutely amazing. And also having the balance, as you said before, and also your why about the 4 elements of knowing what you want to do, where you want to go, and first of all knowing who you are, and then your why. So I thought that was absolutely amazing. Even though the square isn't the strongest shape, well, it is the strongest shape when you're talking about yourself. So I think that was absolutely amazing. So just thank you so much, from all of your words of wisdom and everything that you shared in this interview today. I've had a really amazing time, and I'm sure our viewers, our listeners and watchers are having a much more amazing time than I am.
I know. Thank you very much for having me on your show. And like I said, help you on your journey in engineering. I'm always here. I'm always here to help. Be delighted to.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.